Hello, my dear audiences. Welcome to the show. Jack Chow is hosting with G&E TV. Once again, we're talking about election, and in the election, among all those elections, there is a big one in California. That is the position of governor of California. We have the pleasure today to be joined by one of the most hopeful candidate of California governor in that campaign. That is Mr. Chiang, Treasurer of California. Welcome, sir, to the show.
Happy to be with you, Jack. Thank you.
Very good. I feel more comfortable you're running because looking back into your recent resume, if I may please, starting in 1997, Treasurer Chiang took the position of a member of the Board of Equalization in California, which is important, very super important job that created lots of revenues for California for 10 years. The American way, 10 years, the Chinese way, 10 years. That's a lot of years. And starting 2007 to 2015, he's been the controller of California, who is the one that controls the right way of money spending, expenditure-wise. And from that onward, he is the treasurer of California. So important jobs. That is, if I may go all the way of your resume, I have to cancel the show to go all the way. So how about that?
Don't do that.
But it's not, don't do that, right?
Don't cancel your show.
So, all right, go. We would like to hear something from you about your overall situation of your campaign, please.
Sure. So in mid-May, we officially opened an account to start my campaign for governor of the state of California. So it's the first filing period closed 7 weeks later, June 30th, and we'll report on July 31st how well we've done. And so I'm very excited. We've had incredible support, not only from California, but throughout the United States of America, people who want to see a more hopeful, a stronger California. And today they want people and leaders who can bring people together. And so through my 18 years in public office, that's been one of my strong focuses. How do we create stronger, better, healthier communities? It's one of the reasons I want to be governor of the state of California. When my parents immigrated to this country in the early 1950s, even though it was difficult, there was some discrimination, they were able to contribute to the community, and they changed people's minds. They created greater opportunities, not only for ourselves, but our friends and our neighbors. And that's what I want to do with the great state of California.
Exactly. It looks that my friend, refer you as a friend because you are really a friend to the community. Plus that I know Treasurer Chiang for so many years. And we believe that we do need somebody who can put people together rather than make a point by dividing people. And believe me, trust me, lots of people do it that way these days, all right? Now, forget that. That could be a topic for another day, but today we're talking about the incredible support that he is receiving, Chiang is receiving for the governor of California. The election so far looks so good. I did my homework. I have lots of backup document to talk about that. So, at the time of election, though, it is always, when I do my job, to ask 4 simple questions. Who you are, what have you done, what will you do, right? And then why, like that kind. So may I go with that sequence, please?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So to who you are, where you're born, I would like to make one point to my audience that in my eye, he is not only a Chinese American, he is an American American. The American who is capable to represent all Americans. He is a Californian to represent all Californians. Here I'm talking about colorblind, race blind. Am I taking a right spot, right? Very good.
Yeah, the focus, one of my childhood heroes was Martin Luther King, and so he said, you don't want to judge people by the color of their skin, right? We celebrate our cultural, our artistic, our faith, but we want to judge people by the content of their character. Do they have a good heart? Are they bright? Do they work hard? Do they try to make their lives of their communities better?
That is the politics that we would like to hold on to. as versus the politics, they are talking about to be politically right, which is such a slogan that we adore too much to, that we start to see something that we feel, oh my God, we need probably sometime a new leadership. So that's why, that's how exactly time brings us to the year of election, right? Now, back to my first group of questions, like what have you done? We would like to hear your credit. The credit is ponderous, right? So I would like to have my audiences to share the same excitement about your credit, please.
Sure. So as you pointed out, I've been in public office for 18 years, and I've held 3 offices. I've run and I've been fortunate enough that the voters of California have elected me to those offices. So I feel incredibly blessed to be able to serve today the over 39 million people who make up the state of California. So at the Board of Equalization, as you pointed out, that's the tax authority for the state of California. But I didn't want that function just to be we collect taxes. I wanted to make sure that we try to help people in their normal lives. So we know that today, even though California is growing, we have the world's 6th largest economy. We've gone from the 12th back up to the 6th largest economy. There are a lot of people who are trying to make their living. And oftentimes they start small businesses, and taxes can be incredibly overwhelming. It can be incredibly complicated. Between the federal and state tax code, there's 10.5 million words. So I try to make sure that the taxing agencies help people, right? Instead of just saying you did something wrong or you owe us taxes, how do we help educate people, right? Because you can change their lives if you educate them. And then for the Chinese community, I made sure that we did some seminars in Chinese. We also had language publications. We kept those language publications because people come to California, they come to America, and they have big dreams. This is the state of dreams.
Exactly.
But oftentimes, right, you have to find that bridge. And so how do you cross that bridge to understand and build relationships with your new friends? How do you understand the culture? How do you better understand the language? And so I wanted to make sure that the Board of Equalization staff, especially when I was the board member, provided that education, right? How do we help restaurant owners? How do we help interior designers? How do we help the technology companies? So that was one of the programs I did to try to help educate people, because you don't want people in trouble. You want people to live their dreams, and you don't want people scared.
Exactly.
Today we see too many people are scared because of economic opportunities or health issues or financial issues. Our job in government ought to be, how do we help you succeed? And so that's what I did at the Board of Equalization.
That exactly at the spirit of the board. It is a board of equalization. Somebody refers as the tax board, which is not a tax board, only a tax board. It's a board of equalization. And I believe you did a good job, an excellent job. Not only the job itself proves the fact that you, with a landslide, won the victory to California Controller. After that would be another proven fact yourself. So on the job of California Controller, I would like to hear some story, please. As exciting as you were, I hear, on the equalization board.
Yeah, so California was in deep financial crisis during many of the years I was the controller. So I wanted to make sure that California didn't fall by the wayside, that we didn't default on our debt, right? We see some great places today that are were in financial trouble and are in financial trouble. So whether it was Greece, whether it was some of the other European countries, whether it's the great city of Detroit or Chicago, and we had 4 cities here in California that filed for bankruptcy. I wanted to make sure that the great state of California did not default on our debt. So I made some tough and for many unpopular decisions, right? Because I wanted to make sure that California didn't give up, right? People were making fun of our finances. They said California is going to collapse. But I said, well, I'm the state's controller, which is the state's chief fiscal officer. We were not going to default on debt.
You safeguarded California financially.
I made sure that we
And
didn't
you
default.
safeguarded and successfully safeguarded California financially.
That's right.
Like that.
That's right.
And later, the another approval, which means that another landslide won you the treasurer job, the treasurer position. That starts 2015. And I would like to hear something as exciting as the previous position, please.
Yeah, so the state's treasurer is the state's banker. So I want to make sure that we use our money intelligently. So oftentimes one of my functions is we sell the state's bonds, right? You use those bond proceeds to build highways or to build hospitals, to build schools, to build our water systems. But a few years ago, the state's credit wasn't in good shape. We've improved our finances dramatically. And so I've been trying to refund. It's like how somebody refinances their mortgage to get a lower rate. Over the last year and a half, I've aggressively refunded a lot of our state's debt, and we've saved the taxpayers of California nominally over $3.6 billion, right? Because I understand that you and other Californians work really hard and you pay your taxes. I want to make sure that we get the best value for the dollar that we spend. We shouldn't be wasting it. It's like paying too much money because we have a bad credit rating.
Absolutely.
And paying 18% for our credit cards. That's ridiculous, right? And I want to make sure the state doesn't do that. We pay lower rates as we improve our financial position.
All right. Thank you very much for that statement and that little summary that gives us a little picture, overall picture about the past 18, 20 years when he has been in public service. Excellent job, I would say. Now, words say the proverb has it, seeing is believing. When you see this much this person has done, though, there's no doubt about what he will do. So, joining me today is the candidate for California governor, Mr. Chiang, now presently the treasurer of California. So let's take a very short moment out. When we come back, we'll continue troubleshooting. All right? Hello, dear folks. Welcome back to the show. I would say, my dear fellow Californians, welcome back to the discussion about California. So the title of the show today is as For Better California. It has some reason there, right? So, because we're not satisfied with the status quo of California. Joining me today is the candidate, I would say the most hopeful candidate for California governor, Mr. Chiang, currently Treasurer of California. Sir, welcome to the show again.
Well, happy to be here again.
We're excited. I believe my audience are excited to get to a chance to listen to this wonderful leader of California who has successfully safeguarded California from going bankruptcy, getting out of the dark of the tsunami, and getting even better now. We're starting to see some red in some areas, right? Okay, now, we're talking about the status quo, right? For the status quo, do you feel satisfied? Lots of people do feel not that way. How do you feel, please?
Yeah, so I am not satisfied. I'm happy about the progress that we have made over the past 5 to 6 years. As you pointed out so astutely, Jack, California was in deep financial trouble in 2009. We had the recession, we had the real estate crisis, we had the banking crisis, and so California almost went off the fiscal cliff, but we were able to take strong action to protect California. Now, we've slowly gotten out of debt. We still have work to do. We know that we don't like too much debt, but we have to continue to grow the economy. And so while California's economy has grown from the 12th largest economy to today the world's 6th largest economy, we still have 14.1 million Californians who qualify for Medi-Cal. Many of them are working, but their salaries are too low so that they still need public support to cover their health care. We need to make sure that we continually educate and provide lifelong education to not only today's workers, but tomorrow's workers to make sure that they can get high quality jobs so that we can continue to grow the economy, but more importantly, so that they can have a high quality of life.
All right. I know that, sir, for the past 2 decades, you're focusing on the financial part of California, the financial health of California, which proves yourself that you have done an excellent job. And that's exactly why you're running for higher office to just explore it, make it to a larger range, right? So back to the very point, though, there's a saying that when you talk about money, there are 2 problems. Number 1 is that you have limited resources of money. This is problem number 1. And number 2, there is a problem with your allocation of money. In other words, prioritization of money. How do you see these 2, please, as a future governor, if I may advance that, please.
So you're exactly on point. So yes, there are limited resources. There is not enough money for government to take care of all the social ills, economic ills that impact all the good people of California. So just like anybody else, what you and other families throughout California and the United States have to do, you have to budget properly. You have to make very difficult but important decisions about what's the most important things that we do and how do we do them better so that we can try to provide the best services possible to help families throughout the state of California. And so one of the great equalizers and one of the great investments we all need to make is how do we provide a high quality, world-class education to every single child, right? Because that's the great equalizer. When my parents came to this country, they didn't have a lot of money. But my dad got his PhD, he worked really hard, we lived in a good community, we studied hard, my parents made sure we studied hard, and my mom made sure that a whole bunch of kids, including Dave Jones, our great insurance commissioner, studied hard to give us better opportunities. So my top focus will be to make sure that we create stronger communities so that you have safe neighborhoods, well-educated kids, good jobs, affordable health care, so that we can create a strong nucleus for better quality of life for all Californians.
If I'm right reading your mind, though, you're trying to create, or you're called to create, a community who together adore such a principle that everybody works like your father did one time. Well, get his PhD, going ahead for better jobs, and then if everybody works that way, though, the money will not be an issue. Consequently, the money will come out. California will have money, right? They don't have to go out on straight. They're gonna have to go hungry like that. They don't have, right?
There will always be struggles, right? Because there are people with mental health issues, and we have to make sure we take care of them. There are some, the economy is changing so dramatically. It's so competitive that some people will fall behind, but we need to make sure that we provide them access to education so they continue to get the trainings, continue to upgrade their skill sets so that they can find the jobs in the 21st century.
And also, this community has to adore a culture that you always have to care about your vulnerables. And there are vulnerables who needs your care. And then if you earn enough money to give you the capability of extending cares to your vulnerables, and you have a healthy community. Is that the logic?
Exactly, right. I think we all have great compassion, right? We want good communities, and we know people who struggle, and I think our basic instinct is to help people who struggle, but we have to help them not only pass the struggle, we have to help them through education, through job training, through creating access to better housing, affordable housing, that they can be successful, right? Because we don't want people lingering and struggling their whole life. It's not good for them. It's not great for the community either.
I totally agree with you. As a show host, I do find myself agree. By the way, I don't represent myself. I have a bunch of followers. They do buy the show. They do buy the principle, the ideology that we promote here, right? Okay, now back to the old cliche. We're talking about there is always an argument of limited resource of money, and then there are two voices. Go ahead and tax them. Go ahead, tax them. And then the other one, the other voices say, okay, we're being taxed too much. Okay, and then say, how about we find some better allocation? We get a better hand who controls the money, who can allocate the money in a better way. So, looking at the status quo of California, how California is allocating its money, resources, though limited resources. So, your comment, please.
Yeah, so I think at the end of the day, you trust the voters, right? The California voters have good common sense, and so they will pay if they think we're spending the money well and they're getting good value for their dollar. One of the things that I did when I was at the state controller's office, one of my functions, I was one of the state's auditors. We were the most successful auditors in the controller's office in the history of California. And we were started as a state in 1850. Kathleen Connell, who was my predecessor's predecessor, did $2.5 billion in audit findings over her 8 years as controller. When I was the controller, we did over $9 billion in audit findings. So we really ramped up the performance because we wanted to
the number talks.
Yeah, we wanted to show to Californians we're going to make sure that we spend your money wisely. And so I wanted to make sure that not only do we collect it, not only do we spend it, but we're going to follow up to make sure that we're using those dollars well. And if we're not using it well, how do we get those ideas? When we audit, what are the recommendations of what you weren't doing so well in the past? And let's make those improvements to rebuild the trust and to make those programs work better for the people who we're trying to serve.
You are, sir, hitting the nails on the head, because without the trust of your voters, they will say, hey, they are calling for money again, like that. So now that they see this is exactly the way, which is transparent in my term, how they spend money, how our money is spent, and when we need more, they say, okay, we need more. When we need to tighten ourselves a little bit, we tighten ourselves, right? They know, everybody knows, every voter, every taxpayer know where the money goes, other than as versus the fact that money goes elsewhere, and A money goes to B, something like that. You want to prevent, once you take office of California governor, make sure that each money goes its own way, please.
Yeah, and Jack, I think you made a very important and clear and forceful point. Government has to be transparent, and we have to be accountable. So when I was the controller early on, I started creating a monthly report that said, this is how much we collected, this is how much we spent, this is the state's cash position. So people know, is the state financially healthy or are we not financially healthy, right? And that wasn't popular in Sacramento because, whoever has the information has the power. And the people, I believe, should have the power, right? They should know because what we're doing impacts them. And so I also put up compensation website. We remember the Bell scandal, where some of the top administrators in Bell, 5 or 6 of them, were making over $5 million in their total compensation package.
You're right.
So LA Times did a great job in identifying it. We went and audited, and we highlighted some of the bad practices. And so to make sure that didn't happen again, we started posting the public officials' compensation package so that local residents could see how much their elected officials, appointed officials are making.
Okay, exactly. The conclusion is transparency. Transparency meaning here, of course, I know nothing about money, but I know one thing. As husband, head of the family, I always make sure that I do understand how many dollars we have in our bank, in our banking account, or at least a checking account, or something like that. Other than that, you do not even know where to go as a family. So California is only a bigger family, isn't it?
We're a family of over 39 million people.
35 million people, 39 million members, a family, right? So we need somebody who can be the one who controls the money. So joining me today is my role model, Mr. Chiang, Treasurer of California, the most hopeful candidate for the governor of state of California. Let's take a very short moment. When we come back, we'll pick up the points of certain categories, such as our infrastructure, such as our water, and so on and so forth. So stay with us, please. We'll be right back. Hello, dear fellow Californians, dear fellow Angelinos. Welcome back to the show. Jack Chow is hosting with G&E TV today. We have the honor of having our Treasurer Chiang visiting this show, be my wonderful guest. I call him with the VVIP, talking about our California, right? It is our California we love so much that whoever we see can bring us a better California will say, please come over, do something, right? California is a great state. We used to be, if had it been a country, we used to be number 6 or 7th. Now they're tracking kind of going south. So we do need somebody who will help us, the 39 million people, right? So with the Treasurer Chiang, we touch base in 2 different areas. Number one, we touched about his credit, which is huge, and about his handling of California money by safeguarding California financially, and also by putting up some bad examples, such as the Bell, the notorious Bell stories, and then he emphasized on transparency of a government. Those are the foundations. With that foundations laid, I would like to check about our little problems that has been for the past 20 years of the infrastructures and water, please. Let's start with the infrastructure. So are you satisfied, or how are you satisfied or unsatisfied with the status quo about the infrastructure, please?
Well, today in California, infrastructure, whether it's our waterways, whether it's school buildings, whether it's our hospital facilities, have been significantly underinvested in, right? We know that people are sitting idly on highways, losing quality of life because they're spending too much on our highways. We know that local communities have potholes that remain unrepaired, and so it's important that we come together and figure out how to finance and work on infrastructure. When we all take our basic economics classes, we know that there are certain elements that are critical to growing an economy. It's human capital, it's the people, your talents and your skill set. It's the financial capital, it's the money. You have to have money to pay for these programs. And third, it's the physical capital. It's the infrastructure, right? So we need roadways. And frankly, our roadways and other things have to be adapted to the 21st century. So whether it's highways that also capture water, because we know that we live in a state that has had 5 years of drought, that they have to be upgraded for technology because we know that we're developing autonomous vehicles, that we have greater modes of communication, and so that we need to be more efficient. So we need to be smart about how we plan it. And then we have to do it against the context that even though California's economy is growing, that we're stronger with our budget, these are still, we need to plan for the long term. Oftentimes we think in politics and unfortunately too many other areas, just for the short term, right? You have to keep developing infrastructure over a long period of time.
Thank you for mentioning that. Thank you very much for mentioning that. That exactly is the thing. When you talk about infrastructure, of course, you're looking years ahead, right? You're looking years ahead, way ahead. And then when you focus on something like teeny tiny point, we have a very good year today, unlike this year, and let's do something unusual. And without knowing, you just bind yourself with the extra burden. And that's exactly how we get ourselves situation worsened, right? Speaking of infrastructure, we can't avoid talking about our water. With the reservoirs, with the capability of handling water, which is limited already, and with the allocation of water yourself, and how do you think that a better job you can do, sir, please?
Yeah, so first of all, we have to do what is absolutely critical. So the state of California is heavily dependent on the water that emanates out of the Delta. The Delta today has environmental plus other types of issues. It's subject to a lot of risk. So if you look at the National Geologic Service, and they said the Delta area has a over 60% chance of being impacted by some type of earthquake movement in the next 30 years. When you're thinking that body of water creates a huge supply of water, we better fix it very quickly because we don't want to be left in case of some earthquake where millions upon millions of Californians are left without accessible source of water.
That you're really looking ahead for many years, not only for the 10 years or 20-year period, maybe 30 or 50 years. What if something happened to our delta that it cracks open, every water goes down, and then we have no water left, right? So on the surface, we're talking about lots of attention needs to be taken. So when you're a governor, sir, please, if I may advance that, you will tilt of the budget, the California budget, to go, number one, fix the loopholes. When I say loopholes, I say in a broader sense, not only loopholes on the road, whatever, everything. So number one, this is number one. Number two, you're going to invest something into future, please?
Yes, so actually I put out a plan in the Treasurer's office. If you wanted to go to, the viewers wanted to go to my website, treasurer.ca.com, or GOV, we put out a plan how to think about infrastructure. One of the things we don't do in the state of California is we don't have a central location where we talk about all of our assets. One place where all the viewers can say, this is what the state owns. And then, frankly, once we do that, what we need to do is look at the useful life, right? If you have a house or you have a refrigerator or a car, you know if it's new and it's in good condition, or if you know it's older and needs like some type of new work, right? So we have to do an assessment of the useful life, right? Because it makes no sense if you have a tire that's flat or has a leak in it, not to repair it, right? Common sense says you fix it, and you ought to fix it on a timely basis because you know its useful life is going to be very short if you're losing air out of your tire. We need to do the same thing with our roads, for our water systems for the state of California. Then you have to look at how much it costs to fix it and who uses it. That's how you determine what type of financing mechanism to fix that infrastructure. So we proposed a plan, that sort of general framework as to how you think about how we address our infrastructure needs in the state of California.
All right, thank you very so much for that. And also we thank you for not only for letting us know what's in your mind though, we thank you for the mind yourself. Because you're really looking at a certain culture that you wouldn't want to overspend yourself today. You always look for something like rainy days, right? And then some bad years, right, so on and so forth. California does need something, doesn't need a stress on that. So I know, sir, that you are not the one making laws, right? And it's subject to the legislature what kind of law they want to use. However, there's one thing you want to use successfully, and well, to make your point, that is the governor's veto power. So once you take office, I myself, as a loyal Californian, regard this veto power very, very heavily. So how you want to use it to tilt to your principle, please.
Yeah, I think it's very important that when we contemplate whether we put into place a new law in the state of California, have we had substantive deliberation about that law, right? Because there are consequences, and oftentimes there's unintended consequences when we pass a law because people didn't have a full view or people's actions change based on that particular law. So what I've always tried to establish when in every public office I had and we did law changes or regulatory changes is to bring in the interested parties to say how this impacts us. And then secondly, we have to make sure, is there a better way than actually just passing a law, right? A lot of times people have lost, just trying to work and resolve issues on their own instead of always having to pass a law. So how do we get those principal actors in a certain area where we need behavioral change to engage in that type of behavioral change so that we don't always have to resort to passing laws to fix issues? And then I want to make sure, because we have a budget that's improving, but we still have huge financial tensions in the state of California. When people want to put in good ideas and they cost money, I want to hear the ideas how we're going to pay for those ideas, right? Because we can't continue to pass the buck and make future generations of California pay for the bills that we're not willing to make the difficult decisions to pay for today.
To be honest with you, sir, as a show host, I normally don't let you know how I feel about your statement. I will say, is that all right? Yes, okay, let's move on to. But now I do have to let you know that I'm fully in support of your statement. Because to my audience, let me share my mind. Now that I share with him, why don't I share with you? In terms of politics, when you talk about politics, you talk about election, you are not only talking about picking up somebody, Mr. Armstrong. You're talking about Mr. Making Sense, if I may use that term, please. That makes lots of sense. The law legislation is one thing, veto power is the other. He wants to make it understood to people. Oh, yeah, all right, this is the right way to do, to educate, to lead. Am I right? Am I reading your mind?
Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you for giving me a perfect score. All right, my dear audience, I'm getting more excited for the perfect score that I just earned. Today, I'm joined by our Treasurer Chiang the most hopeful candidate for the governor of the beautiful state of California. For a better California, we want to take a little break, and when we come back, we'll talk about how we want to make sure that California jobs are secured or to be more, creative for more. Stay with us, please. Hello, dear folks, dear ladies and gentlemen, my dear audiences, I love you so much. That's why every time when I have a chance, I will bring information to you. I believe this information I'm bringing you is the most important because we're talking about California. That's why the title of the show today is For a Better California. So for a better California, we have a lot to do, but number one, you need somebody who sits in the governor's office, make sure that he understands California, he understands what California needs. He understands, if I quote unquote, what he mentioned just now, prioritization and transparency. Right. So yes. I'm joined today with by Mr. Chiang, the treasurer of California, the most hopeful candidate for the governor of beautiful California. And I would say that I'm getting excited already. I can't wait to see that California that we described. So welcome back. Okay. Now,
happy to be here.
Sure. Thank you. Lots of people been complaining about business leaving California. Right, and last year we had two big ones just fled. In the meantime, we have other states such as Texas, such as Arizona, waving their welcome to our business owners. So, number one question: how do we want to create more jobs? Number two: how do you, as a future governor, if I may advance, how do you, sir, as a governor, try to prevent jobs going away from California, please?
Yeah, so actually, California is doing a great job of creating jobs. During the recession, we lost 1.34 million jobs. 2 years ago, we replaced that 1.34 million, and then we've continued to grow. So California today has a top 3 recovery in regards to job creation in the United States of America. Mm-hmm. But you still make a very valid and important point. We do have companies that are leaving California for a whole host of reasons. One of the issues that people talk about leaving California is the high cost of housing. Mm-hmm. That's one of our huge challenges. I went to Facebook a couple weeks ago, and one of the executives at Facebook was saying it was hard to recruit people from outside of California to come work at Facebook just because housing prices in the Silicon Valley are so expensive. So as the treasurer of the state of California, I sit on 3 of the state's 4 housing authorities. So I worked last year to rewrite the affordable housing regulations to try to create more affordable housing, not only for seniors, not only for the homeless, not only for those with special needs, but also for young people, because we have young people who are graduating who grew up here, but they can't afford to stay here in California. So I'm working aggressively to try to create housing that's more affordable so that we can keep people across the spectrum in California. And then we also understand that some of the administrative requirements are just too complicated, right? This is such a big state and government's trying to help, but sometimes they make the rules so complicated to follow. And then, for instance, so in the treasurer's office, I chair over a dozen economic authorities. So we try to help people who try to put up electrical vehicle stations. We try to help the autonomous vehicles or the electrical companies. But if you come to the treasurer's office, it can be complicated. So for the last year, my staff has been working to try to sort of create an Amazon or a Match.com function. Say, I'm Jack, I have this great, communications company, right? I'm located in the San Gabriel Valley. I employ this amount of people. Do you have a grant or a loan or a credit support program in the treasurer's office? So we're trying to create that function where you come to our website, and instead of putting in 14 different applications into the treasurer's office, trying to figure out separately, you tell us about your company and we'll say, hey, Jack, we have these 6 different programs you may qualify for to try to make it easier for you instead of you having to spend all that time.
You're approaching to them.
We want to be customer friendly.
You're approaching them.
We
want to also streamline it.
Yes, we're trying to be customer focused. And actually, last year I eliminated one of the fees for one of our agencies. So if we don't
What was that?
It's one of our technical programs. But so we're looking at, are these fees necessary or are these fees not necessary? And if it's not necessary, it's like, hey, we want to make it easier for businesses.
I see. So making it easier for business is always the key. It may sound little, but to lots of business owners, that is exactly the reason they leave California or they already left California. Okay, now you mentioned just now you mentioned something very important about the proportion of housing development to include affordable parts. That reminds me of another interview that I conducted with Tony Wu of West Covina. And he says that he is leading to a resolution that to developers, every time when you do a plan, you have a certain portion towards the poverty line of the state, of that city. For example, if there's the portion is 10%, and you have to create in your own plan 10% of affordable housing. Is that recommendable to California when you consider about housing development?
So I believe each city, in discussion with the people in that community, ought to determine what's best for them. So whether they choose inclusionary housing, whether they choose to assess fees so that you can build separate housing, you ought to have that conversation. But all the cities need to be receptive to the fact that they need to make sure that you build housing for the residents' kids who are there or the residents' teachers who live in those communities who can't afford to be there. We have different instances where you have in the desert area where they have lots that were set aside for affordable housing, but these are single-family housing units, not multi-family housing units. That they would build that as their type of affordable housing unit area. But they created and designated certain space, and they came up with a plan how to fix and identify how you're going to fill in the housing needs for that community. So we need the leadership, but we need sometimes to push local government officials to say, hey, we need prompt action on a lot of these plans because we have communities, we have businesses, we have others who need access to housing.
Yeah, not only for the senior or for the lower income, you're also talking about young people, the young talent who are super talented, yet they are new, right? They can't afford like the $300, $500 or $1 million house. They want to start low key. They can start low key. For them, the key to keep them in California rather than going away is to let them be affordable to the house or make the house affordable to them. Am I right?
Exactly.
All right. Thank you, Governor, for that. Okay, all right. Let me
I haven't heard it yet.
Yeah, I know that, but I just can't help. I keep on advancing, Governor. Well, anyway, we do need a governor like that. So, talking about job creations, you mentioned about 1.34 million jobs created. How did we succeed that much, please?
Part of what was slower about this recovery was that Americans were in so much debt. So it was not only consumers, but we know the private sector, especially the financial industry, we saw what happened with Wall Street, was in debt, and government was in debt. And so as we repaired and healed our balance sheets, we were able to create more economic activity. Here in California, we have the highest performing economic region in the United States of America, the Silicon Valley, where you have, this is a Milken Institute study, Menlo Park, San Jose, Santa Clara, a little bit north. San Francisco is the number 2 area. Oakland's 39, San Luis Obispo's number 10. Unfortunately, the Glendale, Burbank, Los Angeles area is the 77th highest performing area. So part of that's impacted by trade. So one of the things we have to understand is that we live in a global economy. We have great friends in Mexico, we have great friends in China, we have great friends in India. we have to continue to build a strong relationship.
That's a higher elevation, right?
We have to build where it's not only the top people, the big companies are working together. We need more middle-sized and smaller-sized businesses building those partnerships so that we can grow the economy.
Exactly, exactly. And we really like that because right now you're talking about a small village, right? You can isolate yourself, especially California, where most of the cargo land in California, though. That's what that transported to whole United States.
Right.
So you're talking about the importance of California, right?
Yes.
Okay, now, one last thing, if I may, please, politics, right? So in terms of politics these days, we feel, at least I feel, that we talk about two politics. Number one, the politically right politics. Number two, the partisan politics. Okay, in your mind, sir, is there the third kind of politics?
Well, you have to deal with all of that, but what's important at the end of the day is building connections and relationships, right? At the end of the day, if you know each other, you may disagree, but you can disagree respectfully, right? Because we all come from a different place, right? I mean, we disagree with family members, right? But at the end of the day, right, you care about each other, and so you come to some type of agreement, and you try to respect each other. So I always try to say and with my past colleagues, and I got along great with both Democrats and Republicans. I will tell you where I am, and if we reach a certain point where we agree, then let's go forward.
That's proven true. That's why you have this incredible support right? From both sides, both aisles.
Well,
right?
what I'm very pleased about is a lot of the programs that I started are carried out by both Republicans and Democrats. So my efforts to educate for taxes, to help small business seminars, to do nonprofit seminars, to do religious seminars, right? Today, regardless of party, both the Republicans and Democrats carry on those programs because they understand and they care about helping people.
Sure. I can see, sir, you're hesitating of naming your concept as the third politics. But exactly, to be honest with you, we do look forward to see that somebody flying a banner saying that this is the third politics. Instead of partisan politics, instead of politically right politics, here is the politics. The third politics that benefits the Californians, you taxpayers. So, or am I exaggerating, or you and I can disagree, like you say, right? Sir, what's your comment on that third politics, please?
Yeah. So I just call it common sense and goodwill.
Okay,
right? Right. We know the golden rule. You know, you treat your neighbor as you want to be treated yourself. So right. I want to be listened to. That you can agree or disagree. I want to be afforded respect. I want to be included in the process, and I do the same for others. Because at the end of the day, we're all humans. I believe we all have value.
I would say, sir, however strong I adore somebody who waves that flag, that kind of flag, I still like this low-key statement. It's like a neighborhood politics, right? You treat people like the way you want to be treated. I'm a friend of yours, and then you be a friend of mine, like that kind of thing, right? So, and you mentioned about your website, which sounds to me a very transparent website of California and California money. May we have the website again, please?
Yeah, so my treasurer's website, which I mentioned a lot of the economic programs, the treasurer.ca.gov. I want people to just come on, learn. We want to really just help people, right? People work really hard, and sometimes they could use a little help. Part of this is some people are afraid to ask for help.
I see.
Whether we can help you or not, we want to try to help you.
Okay. And also, when I say website, we're talking about your campaign website, please.
Yeah, johnchiang.com.
Yeah, johnchiang.com.
Yeah.
That's easy, right?
Yeah.
John Chiang, JOHNCHIANG.com. Is that right? Okay. We're over time. All right, my dear audience, we went over time, but I'm very happy we did it. So with my political star, candidate of California governor, John Chiang, we want to wrap up, and we thank you very much for watching, and we thank you very much for coming here and sharing, and wish you very good luck.
Oh, it's an honor to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you.